Hi again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're here from literally all around the world. I know that there's literally all around the world. We're here in California, in New York, in Eretz Yisrael, in England, and across the States. It is such an honor to be here with you today. The last time we learned Tanya was back in the summer, a few months ago. We learned until chapter 15. And I thought that before we continue to move forward in the Tanya with chapter 16 and 17, it would be a good idea to just get us up to speed at least in the last couple of chapters, which we entitled How to Win Every Inner Battle. That's a huge title, it's a huge calling, but that's really what a Beinoni is. That's what a Beinoni does. A Beinoni wins every battle. Now, these chapters contain big strategies about how to be a Beinoni, how to win every battle. But in order to have a really good understanding of what we're talking about, I think it's important to learn all the chapters from the beginning of the Tanya, because you cannot separate the technical from the deeper understanding. Our entire series is now uploaded on our new website, Baruch Hashem, energizedliving.org. There are many other ways to learn Tanya as well. But it's very good. I really want to encourage you to learn the beginning. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. And I hope that you will gain from today's discussion. But to have a deeper understanding, it's really good to get into it from the beginning. On a personal note, we've been learning Tanya last year, all of last winter, and then we stopped in the middle of the summer. And it was a very big break for, there was a summer and then there was the Yom Tovim, and it was a very big break. And I personally found it hard to get back to restart preparing and teaching, because there was so much going on in my life. Really had to push myself hard to jump back in. I did not know how I would find the time. Taka did not end up doing notes. I apologize. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who pushed me to push for this to happen, to push for us to start doing Tanya again, because it is so refreshing and energizing, and I have no other words. So good. It's so good to be back in the arena of Tanya. And especially, I think now looking back, I think that especially when we have so much going on in our lives, especially with all that's going on in the world today, and specifically when we are busy and when we don't have time and when there's so much that we have to do, that's when we need the Tanya the most, because learning Tanya is like having a voice of clarity, a voice of strength and security playing in our minds. And we need that today more than ever. So thank you again for being here, each and every one of you who's here. And thank you for pushing me to be here, because I did not even realize how much I have missed having the secure, grounding voice of Tanya walking me through this day and every day as an active part of my life. It's one thing to learn it, a few months ago, but to be learning it on an active basis, it's just so good. Okay, so let's go into our today's topic. The Tanya teaches us how to be a Beinoni, how to be a person who wins every inner battle. The first few chapters of the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe tells us how our system works, how our mind and heart interact with each other, and our relationship with ourselves, with the two souls that we have inside of us. And this is super important to know, because knowing how our system works empowers us. It positions us in a place where we can then work on our system, where we can make changes. Like an electrician needs to know the science of electricity in order to be able to repair something that needs repairing. So we need to know where to invest our energy when we want to change our experience of life. That's the first couple of chapters of Tanya. They're very, very, very important. So again, if you're here for the first time, please do fill yourself in on the beginning of Tanya. We are starting our review only from chapter 12, where the Baal Tanya describes in detail the work of a Beinoni. So A Beinoni is someone who experiences intense inner struggles and achieves victory time and time again. But what are those struggles about? What is the battle? How do we, is it a battle between pleasing this person and pleasing that person? It's not. On a deeper level, what's really going on? What's the underlying theme of every conflict, of every inner conflict that we have? What's the core of it all? The Baal Tanya describes that at the core of it all, there's two opposing forces, two opposing life forces, souls, inside each and every one of us. We have our nefesh elokis, our neshama, our godly self, versus our nefesh habahamis, which is our first and primary, and that's why we call it in our learning, we've always called it the human dimension, because it's our human self, it's our basic default setting. When we return, when we're not trying, we're not working hard, we're not actively turning any switches on, we are in the mode of our nefesh habahamis, our animal self, our human dimension. Whenever our nefesh elokis, whenever our neshama is our driver, we are in the mindset of, we have that clarity, we're driven by a mindset of, I am here in this world, by Hashem, with Hashem, and for Hashem. On a very deep level, we have a sense of security and strength, comfort, reassurance. We know that Hashem is in charge. We know that we're good, we're inherently good, where our goodness is unbreakable, untouchable, unstoppable by anyone and anything. We carry that inner core fully, with awareness, with dignity, with joy, with a sense of inner peace. We feel whole because we have that, and we're never alone. Hashem is always with us, and I could go on, but this is good. This is the goodness that we want. Okay, in the mode of our neshama, we could be nice to ourselves. We love ourselves. We don't hate ourselves. We accept Hashem's plan of who we are, of our starting point, of our weaknesses, of our failures, of our mistakes, of our childhood, of our genetics, of everything about us. We accept the struggle, and we accept our mission in life, which is to let Hashem make a difference to us in our lives, in our experiences here and now, in whatever we're dealing with. So all of that is the mindset of our neshama. Okay, where that's what we're here for, to shine Hashem's light in this space. That's our neshama's clarity speaking up, right? And as much as we are aware of this force within us, as much as we're aware and connected, as much as we feel a sense of ownership of our neshama, as much as we identify, this is me, this is who I am, that's how much we value ourselves for who we truly are. And our goal is to have that clarity, to have that awareness, to keep coming back to that awareness when we slip away, because we will inevitably slip away and lose that awareness, but we want to keep coming back to it. And our goal is to engage in our lives, in every relationship, in every moment, with awareness from that place of truth, from that place of awareness of the truth, from that place of our true value and our unstoppable empowerment. And the battle begins. The battle begins, and I'll use a stronger word, the battle rages. It rages because there is an active force within us that is distracting us from this truth. There's an active force that's pulling us away, that's presenting us with an entirely alternate view of reality. And just to bring in one other important word that we've been using a lot is, to the extent that we are not aware of our truth self, that's how much we feel defined by, that's how much we need to create a self. Because having a self is an essential need. Every one of us needs to be a self, to have a self, to feel valued, to feel like we belong, to feel like we matter. And we have that. Hashem gives it to us. It's our birthright. It's part of us every single second. But when we're not aware of it, we have a deep sense of neediness. Deep inside, we feel empty, we feel needy, and we look for that. And that is how we create our ego. Our ego is our invented self that we create when we're not aware of our true self. And it's driven by our Nefesh HaBahamis, because our Nefesh HaBahamis is a part of us that's a force that distracts us from the truth of who we are. And the Baal Tanya calls this force right in the beginning of Tanya, in the first chapter, he calls this force Ra, which means bad. Ra is not good, it's bad. What is bad? When I think of bad, I think of a criminal. I think of something that's very shameful, despicable, disgusting, and ugly. But the Baal Tanya's definition of bad is different. It's not an emotional sense of bad. It's not the bad that we acquired when we were children. In the Alter Rebbe's paradigm, there's only one good, and that good is Hashem. Hashem is good. That's the only good there is, right? Anything that distracts or conceals Hashem's truth, anything that denies, rejects, or even ignores Hashem, that's bad. So we have an active force within us that's called bad. Why is it called bad? Not because it's shameful, not because it's disgusting or ugly or, something that is not perfect. It's exactly perfect, exactly how Hashem wants it to be. It doesn't make us bad people. It makes us distractible. It's a force of distraction. It's an active force of distraction. And I just want to add here, the Baal Tanya, doesn't use the word Yetzer Hara right in the beginning, but the Yetzer Hara is that force that pulls us to our Nefesh HaBahamis. It's the emotional drive of our Nefesh HaBahamis, the part of our Nefesh HaBahamis, that it's the force that makes us act on our Nefesh HaBahamis. Sorry. That makes us feel like we are attached to the Nefesh HaBahamis, that we are limited by the Nefesh HaBahamis. So even when we lose a battle and we decide that, okay, we slip into that mindset of I am here in this world by myself, with myself, for myself. We forget the truth. We forget that we are here by Hashem, with Hashem, for Hashem. We lose the battle. Even when we engage in a moment, a behavior or a conscious thought that distracts and denies the truth we want to live by, even when we lose the battle, we never lose the truth. We never lose our true identity or our true attachment to Hashem. Our soul is always our deeper truth because it is a deeper truth. Our Nefesh HaBahamis distracts us from that truth. When our neshama is driving us, when our Nefesh Elikis is sitting in our driver's seat, we are absolutely aware, with perfect clarity about Hashem's truth. We realize that we're in this world by Hashem, with Hashem, for Hashem. When our Nefesh HaBahamis is driving us, we're distracted from Hashem. And in that space, we think we're here in this world by ourselves, with ourselves, for ourselves. And that's why we also hate ourselves, because if I'm in charge, shouldn't I be doing a better job? And that's when we feel lonely and despair and self-pity and resentment and misery, and all that disempowering toxicity begins with that mindset of I am here in this world by myself, with myself, for myself. And this is not benign. This mindset, it's not benign. It's not like a cute little fluffy, cute doll, a voice that's in our head. It's not benign. It's bad. And it's helpful for us to know that it's bad. And that's why the Baal Tanya calls it bad. Bad means distracting from Hashem. Oh, okay, so it's not so bad. Yeah, it actually is so bad. Because when our Nefesh HaBahamis is driving us, we're distracted from Hashem. We think we're in this world alone, by ourselves, with Hashem, with ourselves, for ourselves. And this is the root of all our dysfunction and all our chaos. It's the reason we feel disempowered. It's the reason we feel lost, alone, miserable, resentful, helpless, stuck. It's the reason we do not have that clarity and that inner courage and security, that inner peace. So it's bad for us. It's not cute. It's not benign. It's actually very bad for us, but it presents itself as good. It presents itself, our Nefesh HaBahamis is older. We know it before we know our neshama. We become aware of it before we become aware of our neshama. So it presents itself authentically as our smarter, more experienced, more reasonable, practical self. And that's why our inner battles are so utterly confusing. It's not the voice of our Nefesh HaBahamis that ruins our lives and ruins our relationships and gets us into the corner stuck with the pillow over our head. It's our attachment to it. It's not the feeling of loneliness that gets us down. It's not even the feeling of despair or anxiety or helplessness or self-pity. None of that is what ruins our lives. You know what ruins our lives and our relationships? It's our decision, it's our attachment of truth to that emotion, to that perspective, to that belief, to that version of reality. It's our decision that this is the truth. That's where we really get into hot water. When we decide that this feeling is not something that's going to pass, it's our truth. This feeling is my dead end. This is where I belong. This is where I will always be. This is where my road has brought me to. After all of this, this is where I am. I have nowhere to go from here, right? I'm feeling this way and I cannot even help myself. I'm at a dead end. And that's why our Nefesh HaBahamis is called Ra. It is bad. It is bad for us. It's the root of all our suffering, all our misery, all that toxicity, that disempowerment, that really wreaks havoc in our lives and in our relationships. The inner battle that we have is always between these two souls. Every inner battle is always going to boil down to the battle between our true self and our ego, between our desire to be one with Hashem and to recognize, to demonstrate Hashem's truth versus our ignorance or our rejection or our lack of awareness of that truth. So that's the battle. It's I am here by Hashem, with Hashem, for Hashem, versus our ego, which thinks I am here by myself, with myself, and for myself. A Beinoni is a person who is in this arena, in the battle, aware of the battle, facing the battle, and fighting it out, actively fighting it out. A Beinoni gets triggered into that ego, gets pulled into it, will fall into it, by myself, with myself, for myself, but a Beinoni never stays in that ego. A Beinoni never gets stuck there. A Beinoni always wins. And I want to just add one other thought here, and that is that we can have Beinoni moments. Let's not use the definition of a Beinoni as something all-encompassing and all-inclusive and absolute. That is something that either, black and white, that either we are always a Beinoni or never a Beinoni. No, we have Beinoni moments. We have Beinoni experiences. We have situations in our lives where we can show up as a Beinoni. We even have habits where we have the Beinoni level, the Beinoni experience within this habit. And then we have parts of our lives that we really are struggling, and maybe we're losing. And maybe we're not, maybe we're only a wannabe Beinoni. We didn't yet become, we lose again and again, but we keep coming back to trying to be that Beinoni. That's the name of our game, to keep coming back to trying to win the battle, because we could win. A Beinoni is within our reach. We could win the battle. Okay, so how do we get there? How does a Beinoni get there? Let's review a couple of the big ideas. How am I doing with time? Oh my. Okay. In chapter 12, we learned the first big idea about the Beinoni. The first big strategy is in the opening lines of Tanya, chapter 12, where the Baal Tanya says, "Va Beinoni hu shala'olam ein hara goiver kol kach lichbash as ha'ir ktana lislabesh beguf ulachti." Beinoni is someone who's bad, whose Nefesh HaBahamis, whose force of distraction from Hashem never gains enough strength to actually conquer the small city, meaning our conscious behavior, to actually control a person's behavior. What does it mean it never gains enough strength? What does it mean that the Nefesh HaBahamis is never strong enough? That my impulse for distraction, for delusion is not strong enough? Hello, did you meet my Nefesh HaBahamis? My Nefesh HaBahamis is strong. It's very strong. And it does have enough strength to win. What does it mean when the Baal Tanya says a Beinoni is someone whose Nefesh HaBahamis doesn't have that strength. Well, then does that disqualify me right from the start? We already learned in chapter 6 that every person's emotional intensity is different. Some of us, when we're sad, we're very sad. Some of us, when we're sad, we're sad. Some of us, when we're sad, we feel like the world came to an end already. It's over, it's done. We have such intense feelings. I remember one of my kids, when she was 4 years old, and she got a fight with her brother. She said, he broke all my feelings, right? He broke all my feelings. If I asked her on a scale of 0 to 10, how upsetting is this? She without batting an eyelash, 100, right? On a scale of 0 to 10, her feeling of disappointment is 100. Some of us have that kind of intensity. When we do, if we are, those of us who have that kind of emotional intensity, we know that we also have that same capacity for joy. And in chapter 6, we learn that just like every person's emotional intensity is different, within every person, our human emotions will always be parallel to the emotions, to the capacity, to the strength of our neshama. So no matter how intense our emotions are, we're talking about which one is stronger within us. Which part of us is going to win? So we could be a very intense person. We could have very strong emotions, and it still will not win the day. Why? How? Because we could make a choice about them. We could make a choice about them. I want to make a disclaimer here and address a question that has often come up about this in the past. People have often asked this question. They said, what about addiction? What about that is a compulsion, that is stronger, that does win? A person does not have control. A person does not have a choice when they're in the throes of active addiction, right? Addiction is strong and beyond our control. The Alter Rebbe never uses the word addiction, but my personal understanding is that addiction is addressed in chapter 17, and we'll, Be'ezus Hashem, talk about it next week. So right now we're talking about everything else, every other impulse, every other desire, every other mood, every other mindset, every other belief, anything else that we're dealing with. As strong as my desire or impulse is right now, as strong as I'm being pulled in that direction, as strong as my mood is, as intensely bad as my mood is, it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to each of us to look at our emotions, to look at our perspectives, our beliefs. And beliefs, we believe that they're true. They're part of us. They're deep within us. They're not coming from the moon. They're in our minds. We believe them. It's up to us to look at them and say, this is real. It's authentic. This is my experience. It's true for me. It's real. It's happening, right? But there's something beyond this. There's something even stronger. And I've often told the story, but I want to just say it one more time very quickly about the little girl who was running away in the forest, away from the Nazis, and her older sister wanted her to climb up a tree, and she refused to climb up the tree. She said, no, the tree, I'm scared, and her sister told her, encouraged her, and she said, Hashem is stronger than your fear and bigger than the darkness. And this is what the Baal Tanya is talking about over here. Yeah, you're afraid. Yeah, you're feeling anxious. Yeah, you're feeling like a victim. Yeah, you're feeling helpless. You're feeling alone. You know what? That feeling is very strong. That feeling is super strong. But there's something bigger. There's something bigger than that feeling. Hashem is stronger. And we could ask ourselves, very nice, Hashem, it's very nice to know Hashem is stronger. I don't feel it. It's a decision that we need to make. It's a decision that we can make. Am I going to let Hashem be stronger? Is my trust in Hashem, is my awareness of Hashem going to be stronger than my awareness of this emotion? Could it be more real than this? And obviously this takes a lot of work. The work that we learned about in the beginning chapters of Tanya, especially using the Chachma, the Bina, the Das, learning about Hashem, thinking about Hashem. doing the work of da'as, which is letting go of our inner resistance and like working through our inner resistance to our sense of value of Hashem. But let's go back to here, when we're in the throes of that intense desire, that intense impulse, that pull to get into this bad mood, to eat that cake, to say that, to look at that, to continue browsing, to whatever it is, it's strong, okay? So what? So what if it's strong? We do not have to obey it. As strong as it is, I don't have to obey it. Last night in our book, Discovery book, which Baruch Hashem we have every Tuesday nights for those of you who live in a time zone where it works for you, we're working through the book, Your Awesome Self, chapter by chapter on Tuesday nights. And someone shared something very incredible. Actually, a few people shared such meaningful experiences. This one is something I want to share here. She talked about a very painful challenge that she's facing right now in her life. And she said that she's really, this challenge is pulling her very, very strongly into all kinds of dark places. And as she looks at her fear and her insecurity, she has this wish that she could be anywhere else but this pain, right? But she could look at those feelings. She said, I'm looking at these feelings and I'm saying, yes, you are real. Yes, you're real. And I know you want to be here, but you're not driving me right now. I am the boss. I am going to drive me, not you. I know you want to drive me and you're real and you're here and you're with me. You're not going to drive me. I am going to drive me. This is the first and most fundamental strategy of the Beinoni, that as strong as our impulses, our desires, our moods, our self-pity, as strong as we seem to be stuck, ein hara goiver kol kach, it's never going to be strong enough to conquer us because we have something stronger. We're never going to give credence to it as our boss because we already have a boss. That's Hashem. We will never give it permission to define the roads of our lives. We're on a road. So yeah, this is hard. This is an intense emotion, but emotions are never dead ends. They're bumps on the road. We cannot ignore them because that hurts us. You don't want to stuff it away. You don't want to be in denial. You don't want to repress them. You don't want to invalidate them. We don't want to beat ourselves up because we have them or feel embarrassed that we have them. There's nothing wrong with us. No, there's nothing wrong with us because we have them. None of that stuff. We're not going there, right? We need to look at them. We need to know them. We need to validate them. We need to be honest about what we're dealing with. If we're not honest about it, that famous story of the guy who had gangrene in his leg, and it was a Jewish guy, and he meets this other guy in the waiting room, and the other guy goes into the office first, and he's screaming in agony and in pain as the doctor treats the infectious part of his leg. And then the Jewish guy goes in and he's quiet the whole time, and he comes out and the other guy tells him, hey, what happened? You were so brave. You were so courageous. I didn't hear one peep out of your mouth. And I know it's really painful because I just came out of there. And the guy says, look, I gave the doctor my other leg. I wasn't going to sit there in pain. I gave him my other leg. And obviously that's so silly. It's ridiculous. And it hurts him more because he can't get rid of the infection that way. And without getting rid of the infection, that infection, chas v'shalom, could get progressively worse. It spreads. So he didn't win, right? So we cannot ignore our emotions. We cannot ignore our impulses, our tendencies, our weaknesses, our past experiences that haunt us. That helplessness that we always get stuck in. We can't ignore it. We need to be honest about the fact that it's there. At the same time, we want to have that awareness that no matter what we feel, it is not our boss. It is not a dead end. It is not a compulsion that we must obey. It's a bump on the road. What do you do when you see a dead end? I know what I do. Chas v'shalom, if I have nowhere to go, I sit and I park and I wait. I wait for something to happen. Someone's going to save me. Something's going to change. Something's going to shift. It's not going to be me because I can't. There's nothing I could do about it, right? There's nowhere to go. What do we do when we see a bump on the road? We do something different. We slow down. We rally our deeper strengths and we move forward. We keep moving forward. We know, we trust, we are confident and secure. We will get through this and we will be okay. That is the first strategy of the Beinoni, to look at the challenges in our lives, to look at the challenges of the challenging emotions that we have and not be afraid of them, not be afraid of their intensity, not feel that they are our boss, to know that we can walk forward with confidence. We are the boss. Hashem is the boss. Our neshama is our boss. No emotion is going to be our dead end. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. The emotion will pass. The moment will pass, and we will come out the winner. Okay, the next words of the Baal Tanya are also very important. To leslabish baguf b'chtiyai, to enclose itself in the body and cause it to sin. The Alter Rebbe goes on to explain how there's a difference in these lines. We see there's a difference, and we heard about it before as well. In the earlier prakim, Baal Tanya draws a very clear distinction, a firm distinction between our inner drives and our behavior, between our drive to think and to feel and our choice to act on that drive, to consciously think, say, or do. Having a nefesh habahama is having our own unique personality, having our weaknesses, our tendencies, our history, our genetics, our experiences of our childhood, whatever it is that we are born with, and that whatever it is we are raised with, we did not choose it. We cannot change it. This is who we are. But we could change our behavior. We could change how we think. We could change how we see ourselves. We could change our conscious thoughts, the words we say, and the things we do. And in making this huge separation between our drive and our behavior, our choice, our impulses, and our actual behavior, the Baal Tanya is giving us tremendous, tremendous empowerment. Because the fact is, all of us have unhealthy drives. We all have toxic impulses that if we act on them and if I follow every thought that comes into my head, if I sit with every mood that lands in my heart, I will be a dysfunctional human being, right? We get triggered. We have desires for all kinds of stuff, healthy and unhealthy. Okay, we have all kinds of pitfalls in our lives, which the Baal Tanya's approach now protects us from. Why? Because number one, I am not my drive. I am not, no matter what I feel like, I am not that feeling. Okay, even if I feel horrible, I feel like I'm in a bad mood, I feel despair, I am not one piece of despair. We think if I could want this, if I could feel like this, something's wrong with me. Okay, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough bitachon, quote unquote, right? I'm not holy. I'm not connected. I'm not connected to Hashem. And feeling that way is disastrous. It's the worst, right? That's where it becomes a very slippery slope. The Baal Tanya is normalizing the existence of whatever messy stuff you are dealing with, wherever it came from. If it came from your genetics, if it came from nobody knows where, if it came from your childhood experiences, if it came from your personality, who cares? Whatever it is, we have it. And it doesn't make us who we are. We're not defined by it. There's no shame in having these impulses and having this reality. We do not have to label ourselves by our triggers, by our challenges, by our weaknesses, and we dare not label other people if we want to be in the mode of truth. Another thing about the differentiation. So number one is we don't label ourselves by it. And the second thing is that we give ourselves permission to choose our behavior. We don't have to act according to our ego and our desires. We have 100% control of our behavior, and we have almost zero control of our emotional impulses and challenges and tendencies and all that messy stuff. But we have 100% control of our behavior. So if we walk into the Baal Tanya's office and we want guidance on how to change any behavior, how to master our inner battles, how to be the victorious winner in our inner battles, what we so far learned, number one is to recognize that as strong as our emotions are, we do not have to obey them. There's a separation between our drive and our actual choice of what we're going to do. And a Beinoni is somebody who has absolute awareness of that fact and who consciously accepts ownership of that empowerment to choose. So this is an excellent question. We're talking about choosing our behavior. What about when our body doesn't do what we want it to do? It seems like we do not have a choice. So we only have a choice within our physical human capacity. Okay, I cannot choose this moment to not be tired if I didn't sleep last night. I will be tired. Hashem doesn't expect us to change the nature, the natural order of the world. What I mean is that within our reality, with this amount of money in my bank, with this amount of strength, excuse me, with this amount of health that I have, with this exact set of circumstances, with these people in my life, with these challenges that are on my plate, okay, now from here, I want to make a choice. Number one, the first choice we want to make is, how am I going to see myself? That's the most important choice. That is the first choice in the entire Sefer Tanya. And also in this parak of chapter 12, when we're talking about the strategies of a Beinoni, first the Baal Tanya says, that no matter how strong the desire, the impulse is, you always have that choice, right? Ein hara goiver kol kach. It's not as strong. You still have that choice. There's a separation between our inside and our outside. And the next thing the Baal Tanya tells us is that these are my favorite words, I think, and the whole parak Yud Beis for sure. V'loi nikra alav shame Russia. V'loi nikra alav shame Russia. I will never be called a Russia. That's a Beinoni's decision. That's a Beinoni's first choice in the face of all my challenges, in the face of all that's going on. Number one, how am I going? First of all, I want to acknowledge and validate. This is the first strategy of the Beinoni. I want to acknowledge and validate that as strong as these desires and the toxicity and the unhealthiness and whatever it is, the despair, the loneliness, as strong as it is, I am not compelled to act on it. Number one is, I'm not compelled to act on it because I have a choice. I could choose my behavior. I could choose every single one of my thoughts, the words I say, and the things I do. Obviously, my choice has to be within the reality, within the stage that Hashem gives me. That's the stage where I'm going to shine. Somebody else's stage is for somebody else. This stage is where Hashem needs me. And this person was saying this, somebody was saying this last night. So it's very much on my mind that, we sometimes look at our challenges as distractions from our real life. These challenges are our real life. That's where the fact that I have this challenge means that this is where Hashem needs me to do something today. This is where there's something good here that I have to accomplish. It's good for me and good for the world. So it's not a distraction from my life. This is exactly where I need to be right now, dealing with this stage, whether it's a leaky roof, or a leaky relationship, or a lonely heart, a broken heart, or a moment of joy, and a joyous, happy occasion. Whatever my situation is right now, that's where Hashem wants me to be. And from this place, within this place, I want to be a Beinoni, which is to let my neshama's perspective win, to let my awareness of Hashem show up and make a difference in my behavior, in how I engage in this moment. So the first choice we make is V'loi nikra alav shame Russia. I will never be defined by shame. I will never be by anything shameful. I will never be defined by anything other than my absolute truth, which is my oneness with Hashem. So never define yourself as someone who is disconnected from Hashem and from your soul. Always keep that boundary. Even when we make a mistake, Even when we made a very bad mistake, do not take on a sense of shame. Let's not do that to ourselves. That's the first decision that a Beinoni makes is, I'm not taking this on. This shame, it's not about me. It doesn't belong to me. It's not me. Not even for 1 hour, not even for one moment of my life. It is not who we are. A Beinoni has a very strong sense of self-definition that says, I will never be a person who's comfortable with disconnection. I will never park in a place of shame. I don't belong there. It doesn't belong to me, and I don't belong to it. Most of us are comfortable with a little bit of shame. Most of us are comfortable with a little bit of distraction, a little bit of delusion. We're comfortable switching off. Just for now, I want to do a little Avera, Has v'shalom. Just for now, I want to just not care. Just for now, I don't want to be focused. I don't want to have to try. Just, we're comfortable with a little bit of that. I want to indulge a little bit in just, not switching off and not caring about my relationship with my soul or I don't want to respect what Hashem wants, Chas v'shalom, right this minute. A Beinoni doesn't do that. A Beinoni sees himself differently. And again, I'm not talking about our goal here is not to one day wake up and be that absolute Beinoni. Our goal is to create Beinoni moments today. Starting from today, we can create Beinoni moments, and then we could create another Beinoni moment and another Beinoni moment. And that stretches into becoming more of a Beinoni self. But a Beinoni sees himself completely differently from somebody who's comfortable with distraction and disconnection and taking a time off from my relationship with my soul. A Beinoni says, I am here by Hashem, with Hashem, for Hashem, and I will never let go. I will never stop caring, not even for a minute, not anywhere, not anyhow, not even a little bit. The first step to change is to change how we see ourselves. If we want to stop exploding in anger, if we want to stop, we want to change the way we use our phones or the way we relate to food or the way we relate to ourselves, how we beat ourselves up in our minds. The first thing we need to do is decide, I am a person who does it differently. This behavior does not belong to me. This doesn't belong to me. It fell on me. I did it once, I did it twice. It's not me. It's not who I am. It's not who I will ever be. That's the first part. That's the first step to any habit that we want to change. I'm not a person who abuses my phone. I'm not. I'm a person who struggles with it, but I win. I win every time. I will never be a person who eats without thinking. That's my desired self is speaking now. This is what I want to tell myself. I will never be a person who never exercises, who beats herself up, who is messy or who is rude, who gets angry, who, we want to see ourselves as people who don't do this. This is not who we are. If we want to change, that's where we begin. We want to change first how we see ourselves. V'lo nikra lav shem rasha. We don't belong to this label. This behavior is not who I am, not even for an hour, not even for a day. Afilu sha'a achas, berega echad, kol yamav, never. Okay, now some people say, very nice. Okay, I made that commitment, now what? I keep failing that commitment. How does a Beinoni follow through on the promise we make to ourselves and to our souls? How do we follow through on our commitment to change our behavior? How do we do that? The most important strategy for this is to use the time of davening, tefillah, prayer every single morning, especially in the morning, to its fullest. It could happen at any time during the day, but the morning has a special opportune time to achieve a state of mental clarity, spiritual, emotional, mental clarity about this. During davening, we're talking to Hashem, and we want Hashem to listen to us and to hear our requests and our needs, etc. It is also a time that we're talking more deeply on a deeper level. We're talking to ourselves. We're letting our neshama speak up, and we want to move out of the way and listen to the voice of our neshama, of our deeper self speaking up. And we want to absorb and take in that message. and let it sink in and become part of the clarity that we have in our minds. As we praise Hashem, and as we talk about Hashem's awesomeness, and as we talk about Hashem's love for us and our commitment to Hashem, our absolute oneness with Hashem, this gives us a sense of clarity in our minds. Okay, this makes us decide, hey, I value this oneness. I value my relationship with my soul, with my neshama, with Hashem. I never want to move away. Davening is where we get that clarity. So that's what we need to do every single morning. And even if you do this for 30 seconds every day when you say my da'ani, but we can make this longer. We could give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and say the brachas, and say Shema, and say Shemona Esrei, Bircha Shema leading up to Shema, and the bracha that we say right before Shema, in which we affirm our love for Hashem and Hashem's love for us. And we ask Hashem to open our hearts and let us feel what we are trying to feel, which is that love for Hashem. Davening is that time of our day where we do the hard work. It's really hard work of growing clarity about Hashem's truth and our commitment to live by that truth. And then throughout the day, we can keep coming back to that clarity. But that's the time when we want to do that work of Chachma, Bina, and Das, really thinking about Hashem and fighting it out with our inner resistance and our cynicism and our negativity and our toxicity. That's the time when we want to follow it out, fight it out, and gain clarity. And then throughout the day, we keep coming back to it. But the clarity that's in our minds makes us stop giving permission to engage in our undesired behaviors. We stop giving ourselves permission. We get that, we activate the principle of Mayach Shalat al Halev. Mayach Shalat al Halev is a principle of truth. It means that the mind rules over our heart. Even if our heart wants to do what it wants to do, even if our mind is pulling our bodies and our minds in a certain direction, all kinds of directions, our heart is not the boss. Our heart is not the boss. Only our mind is the boss. We cannot do with our body that which our mind does not give permission for us to do. No unauthorized activity happens in our body. Nothing involuntary happens in our body. Chas v'shalom. When our body does engage in involuntary behaviors, that's an unhealthiness. That's a physical illness. It's a health issue. But in general, we do not do things that our mind does not give us permission to do. So davening is a time when distraction from Hashem, ignoring Hashem, denying Hashem becomes unthinkable to us. And as it becomes unthinkable in our minds, it becomes impossible for us to do in our lives. If there's no room for something in our minds, there is no room for it in our behavior, in our relationships, and in our lives. And that's what davening gives us. You know what, my dear friends, I planned on doing a review of chapter 12, 13, and 14. And what I ended up doing was a very nice review of chapter 12. And it's 1:30. And there's a part of me that's saying, just wrap up 13 and 14 quickly, but I don't want to. Emir Hashem, next week we'll do part 2 of how to win every battle. I think it's important enough because I want to give time now for some discussion, and then we'll continue with a review of chapters 13 and 14 for Ezra Hashem next week, same time, same place. So if you have any questions, now is the time. Feel free, or share what you're taking home from this conversation. I love the question. I want to repeat it for everyone to hear on the recording as well. So what if a person has a phobia? We just said that a person could control themselves. Let's say I'm afraid. I could decide not to be afraid is the question, right? But I could decide not to be afraid of dogs, right? Let's say a person has a real fear, a real phobia. That means when they pass a dog, they start to sweat, their heart starts racing, they feel a real palpable sense of fear. How does Mayach Shalat al Halev help them in that situation? I'm so grateful to you for asking this question, because I think that Mayach Shalat al Halev is a very misunderstood. Mayach Shalat al Halev, a lot of people say it means that if you just think that you're not afraid, you won't be afraid. It's not my understanding of Mayach Shalat al Halev. Mayach Shalat al Halev is a principle. It means that whatever I believe in my mind will influence my emotions in my heart. I'll never forget, I shared this last night, but it fits right in here, so I want to share it with you. I remember, I'll never forget walking with my 4-year-old son, my then 4-year-old son, and we met a dog. And he started pulling himself to me, like leaning into my skirt. And I was saying, look, the dog is on a leash. You don't have to be afraid. Don't worry. The dog is nothing's gonna happen to you. And my son proudly told me, he said, Ma, I'm not afraid. I just don't want the dog to bite me. Right? So what he was saying is, I'm not acknowledging my fear, but I'm deeply, profoundly afraid. In fact, I am so afraid that I cannot even entertain the possibility that this dog will pass me without biting me. I am 100% convinced that as soon as this dog comes within my Dalet Amis, if it comes within 6 feet, if it doesn't social distance, it will bite me. That's what that was. It was a decision of the mind. So there's no way I could tell him, and he cannot tell himself, oh, the dog is not going to bite me. You know, he believes it is. And it's a very deeply rooted belief. And that is an example of Mayach Shalat al Halev in action. Mayach Shalat al Halev means that if I believe it in my mind, I'm going to experience it in my heart. Subconsciously, we believe all kinds of things that maybe we don't want to really believe, and we don't believe them consciously, but we believe them subconsciously. So the question really is, how do we change the subconsciousness of our minds? That's the real question here. Because to make a conscious decision, hey, the dog is not I'm gonna tell myself, the dog is not gonna bite me, right? Okay, I could believe it for a second, but in a deeper part of my brain doesn't believe it. That's a phobia. It's irrational. Why is it irrational? Because it's very deeply rooted in my subconsciousness. I don't have access to it. I don't have a way of turning it on or turning it off. It's beyond the reach of my subconsciousness. So I want to just share that I don't know where in Tanya, the Baal Tanya addresses how do we change our subconscious thoughts. This also connects to trauma very much, because trauma is also very often beneath our consciousness. It's in our body, or it's in the deeper layers of our consciousness, beyond our reach of what we could possibly, it's not something we could meditate on, right? Because it's past the layers of where our conscious thought and even where our deep conscious thought can reach. So I think this is a whole different topic in itself, and I think we need to get more scholarly opinion on it. But I want to share 2 thoughts that work for me. Okay, first of all, every time we act on a phobia, we strengthen that phobia. And it's the same thing with trauma. Okay, every time we act on that trauma, we give it more credence. And with that credence, it has more power over us. So resisting running away from the dog, even though I feel this intense fright, seems counterintuitive, right? It seems like the stupidest thing I could do right now is stand still and not move. The smartest thing I could do right now is run away. Okay, and I think the Tanya's attitude of bittul is so helpful here. This awareness that I could have a deeply rooted belief that feels so true to me, and it feels like if I don't obey this belief, I will be killing myself. Okay, if I don't obey this belief, I'm going to be hurting myself. I'm going to be endangering myself. That the Baal Tanya talks about. That we have this belief for an addict, or for, I'm not going to talk about addicts today, but for many of us, right? When I'm going to take another piece of cake, I believe there's a part of me on a deep level that doesn't want to resist it. It doesn't want me to pull back. That says that's so stupid. What are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that to yourself? Don't punish yourself. Why are you going to hurt yourself by not giving yourself what you want right now? Right? It's, if we know that and we appreciate that, we become willing to defy our instinct, to defy even our own logic. And that doesn't mean to do, I don't think this is something that we could possibly do on our own, because we always need because then how do I know that I'm not being irrational? I need to trust somebody that says, actually, this is the healthier way. In that moment of, I'm going back to the example that you shared about the dog, right? I need to trust that I need to do a reality check and say, hey, actually, dogs are not dangerous, okay? Most dogs are not dangerous. So I want to say, wait, is this one of the dangerous dogs? And I might need someone to say, actually, this is not a dangerous dog. You know, this is not one of the dogs that could possibly kill you, chas v'shalom. This is a safe, friendly dog that would never bite you, that would never hurt you, right? Once I know that, I have to be willing to obey that more than I'm going to obey my own instinctive voice that tells me run the other way. So I don't know how we can get rid of that voice that says run the other way, but I do know that we have it within us to defy that part of us that wants to run away. Maybe we need to hold somebody's hand. Maybe we need a lot of support to help us to help us stay put and defy our own instinct to run away. And I think this is a good visual that we could use for any behavior that we're trying to change and any thought pattern that we are trying to break. You know, maybe we need somebody to hold on to help us defy that instinct, because it's very, very strong. But can we defy that instinct? Yes. That's what a Beinoni does, because a Beinoni knows that even though this is a very strong part of me, this is a very strong emotion, this is a very strong, reflection, a very strong drive, right? It's still not me. I don't have to obey it. If it's not consistent with Hashem's truth, it's not something I need to obey. It feels like I must obey it. Feels like I must run. But hey, I'm gonna rely on Hashem and not. I wanna say that next week's, I'm not gonna say part two, because the second thing that I wanted to say was about relying on Hashem, and we're gonna discuss that a lot, meaning actively leaning on Hashem for support. And that's what we talk about a lot in chapter 13 and 14, which we will get to next week. But so again, I don't know how to change, how to take away that phobia, how to get rid of that subconscious drive that makes my heart literally race and my body starts sweating when I see the dog. That is not, maybe there are other methods out there that could do this, but what the Baal Tanya definitely tells us is that we could make a decision about our behavior. We don't have to act on it. And every time we act on that phobia, we're making that phobia much, much stronger. We're giving it more of a control over us. So we don't want to act on it. Okay, so somebody's sharing here a fantastic insight that I just want to repeat for the recording, okay? She says, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I misquote. I will misquote because I'm kind of paraphrasing. So she says that what works for me is knowing, first of all, the most amazing thing that she just said is that it's scientifically proven that a feeling passes within 90 seconds. A feeling is an energy, a flow of energy. It doesn't have words. It's an emotion that rides right through us. It doesn't have words. It doesn't have a description in logic. It just is. It's not the words itself. It's the commentary about the words, narrator. It's the story that we make up of emotions. Okay, so what works for me, I'm quoting, which is so phenomenal. I love it. She said, when I feel that yucky feeling coming up, right, I think to myself, if I was an alien observing this moment, landing in my body and experiencing this emotion, what would that be like? I just landed here. I know nothing about this planet. I know nothing about what happened 20 years ago here in this body. I don't have enough information to freak out. I don't have enough information to write a story. All I know is that this is not pleasant. But I also know that within 90 seconds, it will pass. It will pass. So he says that if I don't have the words, I don't identify with it. And I want to just, the way I see it, because sometimes for me, words are very helpful. If I say, oh, I feel jealous. Oh, I feel, I feel diminished, right? To me, that gives me words. But if I had the commentary about the words, the decision is what keeps me in that negative, toxic, unhealthy loop. And to bring it right back to the dog story, it's when I feel my heart racing and I'm like, I feel this energy pulsating through my body, and it's a very, very unpleasant energy. If I could bring in that alien and say, hey, you do not know, you're actually not supposed to run. You are not supposed to run. Who told you that? Who told you that? That's the monkey in your head that's telling you that. That's destructive. No, you're not supposed to run. You're supposed to stay right here, and that emotion will pass within 90 seconds. And maybe you need to hold somebody's hands for those 90 seconds. Maybe you need to breathe deeply to get through those 90 seconds. Maybe you need to sing a song in your head and escape for 90 seconds to take you, conscious distraction or conscious disassociation, if I dare use that word in this context, right? Maybe whatever you need to do to get through those 90 seconds, do it. You'll get through it. And that will prove to you that you can do it. And I believe that if a person does this, I know that I didn't have a phobia, but I definitely have tried this in other areas, this same idea in other areas of my life. And the hold that compulsion has on me is much, 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 much less. I used to be very impulsive in what I would say. I learned that I actually don't have to speak up. I could be quiet. I'll be fine. The world will continue to run, even if I don't send that email, even if I don't say this, word right now to this person. I'm going to ask this question. No, it's okay. It'll be fine. That was very, 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 very helpful. And I want to just connect what you're saying with what we talked about before. And that is the Bainanese approach to a phobia would be, what's the Bainanese commentary on that experience of fear? The Bainanese commentary on the experience of fear is exactly what just said. It's that this will pass. It's okay. It's big, but it's not scary. It will not conquer me. It's not going to run me over. It's not going to mow me down. It will pass. And I don't have to obey it because it feels like a bulldozer, but that's my own, story about it. It's actually not a bulldozer. It's not going to mow me down. I just have to stay put and it will pass. So thank you again. Wow. So meaningful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to repeat in short, sharing that she came out of Russia to the United States of America as an adult. How old were you when you first flew, if I may ask? 37. And she never flew on a plane before. And it was terrifying. The entire plane ride, she was afraid. And it was a horrible experience. And she thought she would never again get onto a plane. But after she thought about what the fear was, she realized that it was a fear of losing control, a fear of being in the sky and not having any control of what is happening to her body and what is happening to her life. Somebody else is driving the wheels. And then she thought about the fact that she drives a car. And when she drives a car, she thinks she's in control. And she realized that she's not in control. We are never in control. Only Hashem is in control. So when we're feeling afraid, we want to be open and honest and ask ourselves, what are we afraid of? Right? That's what you said. Be open. Ask yourself, what do you fear? What are you afraid of? Very often we are afraid of not being in control, and recognizing that only Hashem is in control and that he is taking good care of us is very, very liberating when it comes to fear. Thank you so much. And P.S., she enjoys getting on a plane every year and traveling to Israel. 7 years, for 7 years, she looked at flying on a plane as the biggest blessing and was excited to get onto that plane, leaving control in Hashem's hands. That's just so beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you.
We're having a parenting group tonight at 9 o'clock New York time. It will be recorded in Mitzvah Hashem and put on the hotline and on the website. Thank you so much for joining. And next week in Mitzvah Hashem, we'll continue with a review of chapter 13 and 14. I'm really looking forward. Take care.